Hello and welcome to another episode of the Simon and Friends podcast. I'm Simon Short. Joining me tonight is Ben Parker. Ben, welcome back in, man. How you doing?
Thank you. Love being here. Love getting to do this. Love getting to talk football, the off season, the sports. Let's do it, man. Let's roll.
We are pre-recording this episode. I haven't officially decided when this is coming out yet. If you're listening over the holidays, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, if that's what you celebrate. Um, Probably not gonna put this out on Christmas. I didn't do that with Thanksgiving. We'll see what happens this year. But we are recording this before Christmas, before the week. I guess this is the week 15 games, right? So we saw Rams Seahawks on Thursday night. It's Friday night as Ben and I are recording this. So if anything major happens over the weekend that would impact what you think about the NFL draft and the teams needing to make a splash in the draft, then just keep that caveat in mind. Real quick, let's do a quick plug for Box Score Network, especially over on the YouTube channel. Because over on YouTube, Ben and I tonight are also recording content that'll be coming out over the next couple of weeks, including a full first round mock draft, including Ben's 1.0 big board. So make sure you are on the lookout for that. Clips from the show make their way there as well as Ben Show's Pro Football Enterprises. All your 2026 draft content needs are over on Box Score Network's YouTube channel. Also, make sure you are following and listening to In the Flat, Tricky Takes, and Two Peas on a Pod, all part of Box Score Network. Tonight, Ben, man, it's the holiday season. We're creating our own lists. We're checking them twice. Santa Claus is also doing the same thing. And you know what? You and I are doing the same thing for a certain group of NFL teams. We have 15 teams we're going to talk about tonight. 13 of them are officially eliminated from the NFL playoffs with 3 weeks ago. Two of them, very slight chances to make the playoffs. So we're going to throw them in this mix here. It is the NFL draft wish list for what teams are looking for in the draft. Now, this isn't a mock. This isn't a team needs per se from a positional value or positional standpoint. This isn't a what they need to do in the first round specifically. This is more of a just general vibe check of what needs to happen for this team to have a successful draft, right? So we can go all sorts of ways with this, whatever you think. It can be about, hey, they need to nail their first round pick. It can be a they need a cornerback. They need to remake their offensive line. They need to trade picks because they need more picks. They need to trade all these extra picks for a real player and go out and make us play. This could be anything on our minds about these teams. But this is the NFL draft wish list. What are these fans and teams specifically, if they could make a list of what's going to happen in the draft, what are they putting on the list? We're going to try to figure that out for 15 teams here tonight, Ben. How are you doing? Are you excited? Are you ready to go? What was an interesting thing for you when trying to come up with something like this compared to we just recorded a mock, we just recorded a big board? Like what are you thinking about this exercise?
A lot more freedom when you're just doing a wish list, right? Because what
Mhm.
they need, what they're wishing for, may or may not be in the first round. It may not be
Exactly.
in any first round. So a lot more freedom. Just say, hey, I really hope we can get something like this. And it might even be something that's not even a draft pick. It might be, hey, we need a new head coach or a new GM or something. It's just a lot more free to get to do it this way. So that was the biggest difference here, the wish list thing.
Yeah, which fan base is thinking at the draft, I hope we trade our coach for
Right.
a fourth round draft pick. Yeah. Who's doing that? We'll be on the lookout for that episode coming out at some point. Ben, let's start at the top. This is essentially going to be draft order as of right now, again, after week 14, 15, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The New York Giants are atop of the board here. They have the first overall pick as things stand today, and they have a lot of needs, I would say. What do you think? What are you putting on the wish list for the Giants? What do you think they're hoping for in the 2026 draft?
So I went very generic with them, and I didn't do that for every team, but I did for them. For the New York Giants, I'm looking to add good, solid, safe, reliable, tough football players. And my thinking there was I would like to avoid some of the riskier players. For instance, Keldrick Falk, who I really like
Hmm.
and has some risk. So if I were the Giants, I would avoid a guy like Keldrick Falk. Whereas if I were another team, I might recommend taking him. I'm looking for guys who are just really going to solidify this team. That can be in the secondary, that can be linebacker, that can be offensive line. But I'm really looking for that kind of player. And I tell you, what's got me thinking that way is the draft they had just 3 or 4 seasons ago, where they had, what was it, two top 10 picks, and one was the offensive tackle, and one was an edge rusher, and neither one worked out too well, right? So
Hmm.
this time around, let's make sure we got a lot of hope there in New York all of a sudden, but let's make sure we're adding football players that really truly fill holes and make this team better, not just high ceiling guys.
Yeah, and you absolutely need talent, but at this point for New York, like the basics are so far behind as well. And
Right.
that's why you're getting a new coaching staff in there. So I wrote
Yes.
down the first thing statistically that stands out for New York is they're the worst run defense in the league. 32nd in DVOA, 31st in yards, 32nd in yards per attempt allowed,
Yes.
despite 19th in rush attempts against them. So they've been in some shootouts where teams are passing the ball, and yet just those raw stats, they're giving up so many yards, so many scores, so many efficient runs in the run game. And yet, you look at the roster, and there's all pros, there's pro bowlers, and there's first round picks all up and down the line. So what am I gonna say? Go get a plugger in the first, trade back a few spots to take Peter Woods? No, we're not gonna do that. But you do need to come out of the draft feeling like you have a solution of some sort. So whether that's a thumping off ball linebacker or just like plugging nose tackle, you gotta get someone like that to come in and just like help soak up some of these hits, some of these, who's a body you can just throw at the ball and help stop the run a little bit. But that's not the main thing they need, right? Because you can spend $5 million in free agency and get somebody like that too, or fourth round pick. The main thing I want to walk out with if I'm the New York Giants is offensive line. And again, this doesn't even mean their first round pick needs to be offensive line. They don't have to
Right.
take Spencer Fano in the top five if they don't want to. If they make the trade we made in our mock and they end up with two picks in the first round, they don't even have to take Caden Proctor in the teens or anything like that. But Andrew Thomas just can't stay healthy, and they have two starters that are free agents this year. And I don't think Greg Van Roten is like 36, and he's solid every year. But do you want to pay money to bring him back again? Illuminor, is one of the more confusing players in the NFL for my money, based on what other people think of him, how much he talks trash in the media, how much he seems to get a lot of notoriety for those sorts of things. But like you have two starters are free agents, and I can't imagine uh, tripping over themselves to come back to New York. John Michael Schmitz hasn't been the center you want him to be necessarily, even though he's improved. It's a weird and strange group where all five of their stars could be back next year and they could be fine, and also they could be left with one starter playing again next year and it not be very good even when he plays. I feel like I need to come out of here really with the meat and potatoes of like I need a couple defenders to stop the run, maybe late in the draft, maybe mid rounds, maybe one early pick. I need some offense linemen that could just be on the field and play and maybe develop into something, um, to whether it's complement an Andrew Thomas or maybe another starter sticks around, or eventually be a starter and be a number one, number two guy themselves. So meat and potatoes, I think, for the Giants in this year's draft.
Which ironically is what they did 4 years ago. And
I know, and as I was writing it down, I was like, remember when they took Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, and we thought that was going to work out? But like, that's the draft, man.
yes,
I gave him an A. My
right,
draft grades are out there on phantomsportsindustries.com. You could probably still find it somewhere out there.
right.
I gave him an A for that draft. They played it beautifully because I remember even thinking like they
Everybody
took
did.
Thibodeau
Yes.
first because they knew at 6 if someone took Cross or Neal, they would get one or the other at 7. I was like, oh, they're so smart. That was such a good job by them to not, but didn't quite work out. Didn't quite
They
work out. But
drafted
you know
two
what? That doesn't
guys.
mean it's the wrong.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's the wrong method. Doesn't even mean it was the wrong picks. I mean, I'm sure we could go back now and look and find a tackle that's obviously better than Evan Neal at this point. But like for everybody's money, those were the right picks as well as process.
Right. Everybody wanted those two guys. And some teams just don't develop very well. That's why the Jets and the Giants continue to be at the bottom of these leagues because coaching staff, quarterback, it's just not fitting together. So it doesn't necessarily mean the picks were wrong.
All right, let's move on to the Tennessee Titans here. Currently, I think they're technically they have the third pick, but they're right there with the Raiders. Obviously, they take the quarterback first overall last year. Nothing has gone well. Coach was first coach fired. Offensive line coach, aka his dad, goes with him. Total no name kind of interim head coach is in his wake here, and we're just left once again holding the bag with the Tennessee Titans, wondering what the heck is going to happen next. So, what are the Titans hoping for in the 2026 draft?
Tons of help for Cam Ward, a new offensive coordinator that can really get him in good spots, a plethora of wide receivers, of which this draft has plenty, and at least one offensive lineman to help upgrade. And having said all of that, I really want to put Caleb Downs here on the Titans for the first round pick because the fit just seems to feel so good. Because I like their front seven pretty good as far as
Hmm.
the energy, the toughness. But that, just having Caleb Downs to kind of support on the backside, the backfield, feels like a great fit. But, realistically, without mentioning Caleb Downs, man, you're looking to get more wide receiver options and at least one more really good offensive line talent in here, right?
So in our we just did our mock and spoilers. I took Mauagoa, the tackle out of Miami.
Yes.
But I said on during the mock that wasn't the direction I wanted to go in initially. And here I'm looking at my notes again for the big board, or for the wish list here. And like the Titans have already invested so much in their offensive line. Big money to Dan Moore Jr., big money to Lloyd Cushenberry. First round pick since Skoronski and J.C. Latham. I really don't want to throw another first round pick at the offensive line if I don't have to, when I have so much other stuff going on.
Right.
Yet if Malago is there, like it'd be hard to pass up on him. Um, the guy I was originally thinking about, and I did put a specific name here, was a Jordan Tyson. Like, and I know I like Cardinal Tate even a little more than Tyson, but Tyson's fit for Cam Ward because Ward is that
Yeah.
escaping, like make some magic happen type of guy. And I think Tyson would just fit with like that ability to find soft zones and like a little more, not finesse, like as in he's not tough, but just like a little more like slippery, a little more like fluid, like water kind of type receiver. And we've seen those receivers work really well this year. JSN, Emeka Ibuka, stuff like that, as opposed to the physical go get you kind of guy in Cardinal Tate. So I could really see, especially because they have like Iomanor, who you know I love. He drops half the balls that are thrown his way, but he is that physical, big, fast, strong guy. I want kind
Right.
of that like that balletic type receiver to go with him, and I think that would be perfect for Cam Ward. Um, they need a wide receiver. I would really like a high end edge rusher. You can't get all this stuff though, right? So, and I wrote DB as well. Like Caleb Downs would be great because their DB room is just decimated right now. But I need so much help there that I would rather continue to try to insulate Cam Ward as best I can. So again, I like if you're a Tennessee Titan fan and you're creating your draft wish list, maybe you end up taking an offensive lineman in a mock or in the real draft like I did tonight. But your wish list is like, I would really like for the offensive line to be fine. I would really like to not have to do that again. So can we get a receiver who's actually going to catch a ball? Can we get an edge rusher that can actually get 10 sacks in a season, not just rely on Jeffrey Simmons to do it himself? Um, and yeah, can we fill out the defense back room? Remember what the Bucks did just last year, right? They took like a second rounder, a fourth rounder, and a fifth rounder. The Saints have done this a couple times. Can we just like can we throw 4 or 5 guys? And you know this is my pet theory right now. And
Right.
unless you're like to your pet theory, unless you're getting CB1, CB2 in the top 10, you could probably skip on it for a while.
Yeah.
The Titans are in such a barren place from a defense back room. I would just rather mid rounds attack it there.
Hmm.
But can we get that wide receiver that's going to be that easy button for Cam Ward? I think that's the ultimate. Because how many times have we seen highlights of him this year where he's running around extending the play and he's got no help, he's got no protection, he makes a beautiful throw and the guy just drops the ball. Or the guy can't track the ball even though there's an open area to get to. He needs a wide receiver that's going to feel that stuff out sooner the better. So that's what I'm looking for Tennessee. That'd be atop my wish list.
Yeah. And when you're at, we say this about several teams every year. When you're Tennessee and you've got several different holes, there's really not a bad choice as long as that guy you can develop them and get them to produce, right? So that's totally fine with that.
The Raiders are up next here. Um, so obviously, we're really looking at a string of bad coaching situations right now with these top three teams. But what do you got for the Las Vegas Raiders?
I'm probably gonna land in an unpredictable spot here, but it's gonna be an explosive wide receiver that I would love to add to this offense. And Specifically, I would be thinking about Jordan Tyson's the guy that you just mentioned. You know, the explosiveness certainly is there. He's not even my wide receiver one in this draft, but Jordan Tyson does seem to bring that explosiveness. My thinking is there's lots of holes on this defense, right? They need help at linebacker, secondary, but um, I feel like the offense is closer. Even though the offensive line struggled at times this year, there's still some good offensive linemen there. Brock Bowers is there. Ashton Jonty is there. You could really use an explosive, quick wide receiver to unlock that offense. Geno Smith, whenever he comes back healthy, is certainly capable of producing a good offense. It feels like the offense is a lot closer than the defense, to be honest. So I'd love to unlock the offense here, and and I'm just not going to prioritize the defense. Now, long term, I'd be working on that defense. I would have already been working on it. I would have already had linebackers in and secondary guys in, but just looking at next year, I really want to unlock this offense, man, because I know I saw those little flashes from Ashton Jonty. I know he's capable, and we know Brock Bowers is devastating. So we got to unlock it a little bit, and I think a guy like Jordan Tyson would unlock it quicker than an offensive lineman, at least in the first round. So I can probably get a run blocking offensive lineman later in the draft. I just can't get a high level tackle later in the draft. So that's what I'm looking for here. I'm a really explosive wide receiver, and Tyson seems to be the guy that would come to mind for that.
Man, if I'm a and you're doing it from the team wish list standpoint, if I'm also thinking about a fan wish list, how nervous would they be to see another wide receiver right now? Like at every point in time when the Raiders are a dysfunctional organization, kind of in the pits of being that dysfunction, it's like, you know what we're gonna do right now? Let's draft a receiver in the first round. That'll do it for us. That it's
That'll do
never
it.
gone wrong before. Um, Man, if you're the Raiders, do you feel differently if they're in a position to, and by in a position, I mean drafting one or two, and they could literally draft a quarterback, or just like wherever their pick ends up being three, four, five. If Moore or Mendoza are on or available, does that change your thinking? Or because I know when we did our show 2 weeks ago, you're like they don't need to do it. But if you're
Right.
if you're making this wish list for a team, would you be like, ooh, maybe Dante Moore is just at the top of our wish list if we can get him if he's just there?
Yeah. If Mendoza was available because we're at one or because
Hmm.
Mendoza slipped, I would do it for Mendoza. I really feel like if more is going to get unlocked, because talking about things that need to get unlocked, if more is going to get unlocked, I feel like he needs a really good spot. And I'm just not
Hmm.
sure the current Vegas situation
Yeah.
is the spot for him. So I don't think I would do it for more, but I would do it for Mendoza.
Okay, fair. Because that's what I wrote. I said if we pick in the top two, it just has to be a quarterback because
Okay.
and again, wish list, right? In my wish, part of my wish, right? You don't wish for a toy that like may or may not break. You wish for a toy that's going to work and you're going to have it in
Right.
your life for a long time and it's going to be really fun. Um, I'm wishing to get a quarterback who's going to be my quarterback for 10 years, obviously, right?
Yes.
Um, because man, if you're the Raiders, like it's just been so sad for so long, and
Yeah.
the team is so far away from being ready to compete that if at the very least I can be like the Titans and feel like I'm pointing at a quarterback and being like, okay, this guy's at least going to be here through the muck and mire, and I'm going to have a quarterback at the end of the day, and he can give me everything you're saying about like Genty and Brock Bowers and trying to find a way to take advantage of those talents. I just think, man, if we're going to make that happen, it's going to be because we have a quarterback. Now,
Yeah.
I think you would argue, I think I would like to be able to argue, they have a quarterback. They got Geno Smith. They should be able to make that work. But clearly, whatever all is going on, it's not working out there. Now, maybe if you do move on from Pete Carroll, but somehow you keep Geno Smith. I don't see this world happening. But maybe you find a OC that wants to be a head coach, and he has our obsession with Geno Smith as well. And he's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna put this all back together. Get me Jordan Tyson, Geno Smith, Jonty, and Brock Bowers. We fill out the offensive line with our mid-round picks, which I've said for 4 teams in a row now, and that's eventually those guys are gonna run out too. And we're good to go, right? If you do that, good to go. Um, maybe. It's getting harder and harder to believe that's the case for Geno, though.
It is. I'd be the Raiders thing is complex because the defense has problems. You're not sure on the offensive coordinator. You're not sure about Carroll. You're not sure about Geno Smith. The offensive line is
It's
struggling.
bad. It's
Half
it's
half
bad.
of
It
it's
didn't
struggling.
it didn't work.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not to
You
mention
know,
Dylan Parham's a free agent. Jordan
yeah. You
Meredith,
don't have
who's
enough
been their
wide
starting center,
receivers.
is a free agent. Colton Miller's
Yeah.
getting older.
And I don't love this year's quarterback class after Mendoza. So it, it's a complex situation there.
Wish
I'm
list
not.
is the tank.
Uh,
Um, oh, I had one more. Oh, should also added to the wish list for the draft be you trade Max Crosby for a first and a second, and you get two more picks in the draft this year, and you finally let Max Crosby go be someone somewhere else.
I I would not, but there are people who would. Yes. So yeah, there are
You
people who
just
would
you
definitely do
you zero out the defense. You spend four top 50 picks on offense,
that.
and you try and course correct as fast as possible. Get Max Crosby somewhere good. Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson should do the Heatles, 2012 Heatles or whatever year it was, and not 2012. When did they go? 2010, and find a place for them to go. Trey's like, hey man, wherever you get traded, I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna sign there in free agency, and we're gonna be this like Bash Brothers from Mighty Ducks, and we are gonna have a ball somewhere. They go to Detroit or something. Um, See, this is the content at 1:11 in the morning, 20 minutes into the podcast. This is why I knew this show needed to be at the end of our recording because I'd say stuff like this when it got to this late hour. Arizona Cardinals, our fourth team. Ben, what's on the wish list for the Arizona Cardinals?
So I'm gonna basically say the reverse of everything I just said. Okay.
Perfect. Yep.
Uh, I'm gonna contradict myself, and I know it. Arizona Cardinals, I wish for a new quarterback. And this really isn't the year to do it, I don't think, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I really don't want to sell the farm if I'm Arizona to go up and get Mendoza. And it'll cost me a little less to move up to two and get Dante Moore. But I'm gonna think about doing that. It's gonna be so expensive to let go of Kyler Murray. I don't like the dead cap, but we'll survive it. It's 1 year basically. It's
Hmm.
it's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
And that I would be okay if they kept the current coaching staff because it's a respectable coaching staff. It just hasn't yet shown that it can win. It's a respectable coaching staff. But you and I talked on our show a week or so ago about bringing in a whole new coaching staff, and I liked that coaching staff with a new quarterback too. So Arizona, for all of its flaws, is not dysfunctional typically like the Raiders
Hmm.
are. So I would feel a lot better about the stability factor of Dante Moore coming in there
Hmm.
with his talent level and working out there. I really would, as opposed to the Raiders. So I'm going to contradict myself and say I wish a new quarterback for Arizona. It won't be Mendoza, but let's try Dante Moore.
Yeah, I wrote if we become for a player for a quarterback, that's great, and if not, that's okay. I'm with you. I'm not selling the farm. Um, Kyler is better than Tua. So the situations of those two, like Kyler's kind of like we've just settled into like, okay, we know it's not really going to take us anywhere, but this also isn't the thing that's actively hurting us, in my opinion. Maybe some Cardinals fans think differently. Tua is actively the reason why the Dolphins are losing games, right? I can point to a lot of other things in Arizona that need to get fixed, as well as the quarterback, not even necessarily before, which is why, again, if they become in play for a quarterback, awesome. And if not, it's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. And like you said, even if they wanted to just cut ties with Kyler for this year and just draft somebody, you could draft somebody day two. You could draft somebody day two for this group, I think. And whether you let Kyler go and you just take the 1 year of bad cap and you make sure that defense gets healthy and gets to what you've tried to draft and develop it to be, and offense, you just kind of you spend a whole year experimenting, trying to make Marvin Harrison Jr. work, and then you get a quarterback that's going to fit it that way in 2027. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, what I also wrote after that was got to look at offensive line. Jonah Williams and Kelvin Beachum have been their right tackles this year. Beecham is 37, Williams is 29, but that is an old 29 because he's missed large chunks of each of the last two seasons. So I'm looking to get this run game back on track as well because Clayton Adams, their O-line coach from last year, goes to Dallas. Dallas's run game becomes incredible. Arizona's falls into the toilet. So I'm looking at reinvesting the offensive line. So if I'm sitting here at 5, 6, 7, didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Anyways, if I'm sitting there in the late part of the top 10, I'll say, I'm looking at reinvesting that offensive line. So whether that's a Maui Goa, whether that's a trading back for an Ione or a Proctor or Lomu or something like that, I could certainly see that for Arizona as well. I think enough has been made for the defense. Like it's the offense's turn. So whatever we end up doing here, um, do something for the offense. Uh, Cleveland Browns at 5. What are you going to do? What's your wish list for Cleveland?
It is to get younger and cheaper. Those are the two goals. We're going to get forced to get cheaper. We just don't have
Hmm.
a choice at this point. We do have a choice about getting younger, but we're going to do that. So I'm not necessarily looking to trade down if I'm Cleveland because we don't have holes all over this roster,
Hmm.
unlike another team that I'll talk about later. Um, I'm more than happy to stay where we are. Uh, More specifically, I would love to get younger and cheaper on the offensive line. You and I have talked about this for a year and a half now. That they know this. They'll be working on it. Um, so that doesn't mean you have to draft the tackle in the first round. It might mean you draft a guard in the second round, right?
Hmm.
Um, Ione, the guy that we mentioned from
Hmm.
Baltimore would be a good
Hmm.
pick here for Cleveland. So that's the thing here. Let's get younger, cheaper. Let's keep bringing, especially on offense, is really where I would love to go, and specifically the offensive line.
Should they be in the big quarterback market? Should they make an offer for one?
I would not. I just wouldn't. And listen, part of that is I'm Shador biased. I don't think he's an all pro in the making. I don't.
Right.
I still think they need to give him a chance and see what they got with him, you know. Um, the other part of it is I'm not convinced this is a huge quarterback class. The other part of it is it's kind of in a dysfunctional place, and I'm not sure that's a great spot for a Dante Moore, who I just said needed stability.
Right.
So I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't fuss if they did it either. It's not the end
Right.
of the world.
I think when we did the mock, I said like I made an offer, but it's not my best offer. Like, because at the end of the day, I know the Jets can be the opposing bidder at the auction that's just bidding you up, bidding you up, bidding you up, and then just pulls out the last minute and just screws you.
Right.
Um, the Jets can do that to the Browns because they have so many picks this year and next
Yes.
year, and God, the Browns, man, if they're sitting there holding the bag and it just does not work out and they trade future picks and with where this team's at, that would be awful. No, yeah, I'm with you. They have to reinvest in the offensive line. Postage tears his Achilles. Teller, Batonio, Conklin are all free agents. Um, Jedrick Wills didn't work out at left tackle. They traded for Cam Robinson early this year. That is what it is. DeWan Jones has showed flashes of being good, but can't stay healthy. Um, I'm looking at this is another team I'm looking at a day two quarterback. If I similar to Arizona, if I can't get in the mix for one or two, I'm taking a day two quarterback just to get in that room with Sanders and Gabriel, continue
Yeah.
to compete. But early on and kind of throughout the draft, I need to reinvest in that offensive line for sure. Defense is fine. I'm gonna let the
Yeah.
defense do its thing. Maybe add one piece if there's a player I like in the mid rounds or something. But I need that offensive line. I need another weapon, right? I need a receiver to kind of come in and help things out. That could be anywhere. That could be that later first round pick. That could be somewhere on day two. But yeah, the O line. If you're a Browns fan and if you're in that Browns building, you're like our best days 5 years ago were when our offensive line was the top three offensive line. I need that back because that's
Yeah.
gone right now. I need that back. So that's number one on the list for sure.
And I will say, having said all of that, because I completely agree, you and I see this completely. If Cleveland's sitting there at 5, or even if they trade back a little bit, and one of those three Ohio State elite defenders is sitting there, I'm probably not going to turn him down. Those
Right.
three guys are
Yeah.
so good. Man, sitting right there in my own freaking state, these guys are
Hmm.
so good. I'm not going to turn that down. So, that my wish list might wait till the second round.
Yeah, everything I said about that offensive line. And then you look at the Houston Texans, who are just like the meanest defense of all time, and their offensive line is just like tripping over themselves, and you're like, yeah, well, they're going to make the playoffs, so like maybe maybe it's there.
Right.
All right, the Jets are up next at 6. What do you think? What's on your list for the New York Jets?
It's Fernando Mendoza, and
Yep,
I we trade up to get it. We don't really have to give up the farm either because as everybody's mentioned, they've already got the extra. I hate to call them draft assets. They have the extra heavy hitting first round picks to do it. Right. That's what
right.
they've got.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to kill themselves in the future to get it either. They can still keep, fairly good resources there. So that's it. Fernando Mendoza. There's a lot of other good pieces on this team, even though they traded away Quentin Williams and Sauce Gardner to do it. It's still, what they don't have and haven't had for a while is a quarterback. So let's get that in place and then finish off the rest of the roster building.
They've got to do it. They just absolutely have to do it. Whatever,
Yeah,
the bidding scenario I laid out. If someone's bidding them up, you have to. You have to. You have 2 picks this year. You have 2 picks next year. You can't walk out of this draft with anyone but Mendoza at this point, or at least without the first overall pick. And then if it ends up being more for you, then it ends up being more. But um,
right.
you have to get the guy. And they have all the cap space in the world too. This isn't like
Yeah.
Cleveland or what other team is kind of strapped that's up here somewhere?
Saints
The
were like
Saints, yes, the
at some
Saints.
point they come out.
Um,
Yeah.
the Jets have cap space. So all the other things that you would think about kind of being like supplementary pieces, right? Because they have a wide receiver one in Garrett Wilson, wherever you think he ranks on that wide receiver one, two, like
Yeah.
he's one of those guys. You have edge rushers and McDonald and Jermaine Johnson in the second, which like again, not going to be premier guys, but you got some edge rushers. Um, you've got an offensive line. Can
Hmm.
I can I just
Yeah.
say can I just say something? Can
Go
I just
down
say
it, man.
something?
Take that rabbit hole.
Josh Myers, my guy. Josh
Yes.
Myers Hive stand up, baby. He gets he gets that 2 year, $11 million contract extension. And listen, someone's gonna be like, dude, what do you're talking about the New York Jets. They're
Right.
bad, right? So why is it good that they kept a guy that they buddy,
Yeah.
buddy, you don't give second contract centers extensions unless he's a dude, right? So Elijah Vera Tucker gets hurt, whatever game it was this season. They moved Tippmann to guard.
Yeah.
Myers comes in at center.
Yeah.
You know who's played like 3 different centers this year? The Green Bay Packers. You don't think they miss Josh Myers right now? They haven't been able to figure out their machinations of is Jordan Morgan a left tackle or a right guard? They haven't figured, Jenkins was playing center, Sean Ryan has played guard and center.
Yeah.
Oh man, who this Rasheed Walker, we thought he was going to get an extension, and now he's on the bench. You know who would like to have Josh Myers at center right now? Green Bay. Their run game has been in the toilet, and the Jets now have bookend tackles. Tippmann is playing his best ball at guard, and Josh Myers has a contract extension. I just want to get that out there. So, anyways,
Yeah.
they have offensive line, they have edge rushers, they have a number one wide receiver. There's nothing you have to save those extra first round picks for anymore, right? Those are the positions you like need to go with for your first round. You've got
Hmm.
them. Go get the quarterback. Don't settle. All right, Commanders are up next. I know it's on your wish list for the Commanders. What should be on their wish list?
It's defense and it's multiple players on defense. So at the moment, we just did this in our mock, so it's not a surprise. At the moment, they don't really have enough draft picks to make that work, enough good ones. So I would love to cash in this, top 10 pick and get, another second or maybe even another first, depending on who we trade with, right? So, um, that's what I'm looking to do. The secondary was dreadful this year. There's one or two guys who should be starting, and they still didn't play great, because of all the chaos. Uh, Wagner, unfortunately, Hall of Famer, but he can't pass cover anymore. He's a
Nope.
liability. He can't blitz, so he's just good at stopping the run. He really, even if he doesn't retire, he shouldn't be out there. Frankie Louvu is the only linebacker they have who should be on the field at all. I mean, behind Wagner, there is nobody else should even be on the field. They can't rush the quarterback. They don't have any edge rushers at all that can do that consistently. And then the defensive tackles are just, very average. So you really would love to get at least two guys on this defense to make an impact, and Dan Quinn would know how to use them. So that's what I'm looking to get here from the Commanders. We need at least two impactful defensive football players.
Yeah, talk about needing extra picks. They have 6 picks currently in the draft, but only one in the top 70. They have pick
Hmm.
8, and then they're slated at like 73 right now because of all
Yes.
those picks they've traded for Tunsil and for Lattimore and for Debo. They're missing those high middle picks there. So trading back and trying to get those guys, depending on who's there. If Arvell Reese is sitting there at 8, that's going to be hard to pass up. But just about anybody else, you got to find some way to acquire more picks, more swings at it for sure. And yeah, I wrote defense as well. 27th in defensive DVOA, 28th on the pass, 22nd against the run, 26th in points allowed, 31st in yards allowed. You just got to go on all in on the defense. The offense got its investment over the last 2 seasons, and I know it didn't go well this year, but everybody was hurt, right? So just push that aside. You've invested in that offense. Just believe in that process and go fix that defense. Go after it. Um, all right, your other pet and for Commanders fans, if you're here, first off, everybody, thank you for being here. If you're here on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment. If you're a fan of these teams and we're missing something, if there's something we're not seeing, hit us in the comments. Fans know their team as best as anybody. Ben has on Pro Football Enterprises a weekly show with friend of the show, Robertson Vire, talking about the Commanders every week. So make sure you're checking that out if you're just listening to Commanders talk and you want to hear more about Ben talking about them. But Ben, your other pet team here, the Saints, is up next. Are up next. What do you want for the Saints? What's on your wish list?
I'm actually split here, and I'm fine either direction we go. So it'll probably be whoever's sitting here at our spots, right? Defensive line, really front seven, and wide receiver. Those are my two things I really want for the Saints. Um, uh, Tyler Shuck, uh, I'm not a huge fan, and yet here he is, winning and producing. Okay, now listen, his TD to interception ratio is what, 6-5, something like that, and it's not pretty at times, but he's got the arm strength, and he's winning and he's producing. Okay, and I know it's not a strong division. I don't care. Wins and production are hard to come by. So, with that in mind, I'd love to get him another wide receiver next year and
Mm-hmm.
just see what he can do with it.
Yep.
We know Kellen Moore kind of knows what he's doing on offense, so let's give him a chance here. Let's see if he can develop and carry. And if he can, great. If not, oh well, we still have a good wide receiver, hopefully. If that's not sitting there, though, the wide receiver you really want for your offense, then let's make that defensive front seven. Let's start really making that brutal. And there are guys here in this draft that will do it because you have some guys on your front seven that I like. But let's start turning that into a real mean strength, right? And again, I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned this for some other team, or maybe it was this team in the other show. I don't remember in this division, if you have some super strength, I do think you can start to take advantage of the other teams in that
Mm-hmm.
division. So, whether that's an Artavell Reese, a Sonny Styles, a Peter Woods, even a David Bailey coming in for edging, you name it, would love to be thinking that. So it's either strength in the front seven, or it's another wide receiver for Shuck.
Both sides of the ball need work for sure. But there's no room to do anything for free agency if you're the Saints. And the defense
Yeah.
has several interesting young pieces, especially in the backfield. So even though someone like Alante Taylor is going to be a free agent, you just kind of have to let that one go. I think that I said that
Yeah.
last summer on a show you and I were doing. Like, it's time for the Saints to just like start letting some of these guys go, fix the cap, let these old guys kind of age out. I went on over the cap and I was like, okay, who are the restructure candidates for the Saints right now? I couldn't find anybody, Ben. Everybody's been
Wow.
restructured. They're in the last year of their deal, so it's either extend 35-year-old players or just kind of eat it and go. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to tell me, hey, we're not going to have any financial capabilities, all these old guys that we would normally extend and restructure and play funny money with, they're all just going to stick around. Where does that point us to in the draft? And it's insulating the offense, right? It's saying,
Yeah.
okay, we had a pretty good run, however many it's going to end up being like 9, 10 games with Tyler Shuck.
Hmm.
Um, Similar to what we just said about Washington, what we said about Washington all last off season. Hey, you got some good play out of your rookie quarterback. Reinvest in that. Don't just count on that to happen again. make that work. So whether that is a wide receiver two after trading away Rashid Shaheed at the deadline, whether that is really investing in the interior of the offensive line because that group is aging out. Eric McCoy, another season-ending injury. Cesar Ruiz has been hurt all year and his play is starting to decline. You got your young tackles. I'm not saying spend first round pick on a guard. Not saying don't do that. If there's not a wide receiver there, if Tyson and Tate are gone, and you're like, Makai Lemon, we can get a version of Makai Lemon later on. Go get Mawagoa and put him at right guard next to Tony Swaga. Oh, buddy, that just got me. Um, but just invest in that, right? Those picks, those early picks, put that around Shuck as best you can, and take advantage, right? You have this second round quarterback that's costing you 2 million bucks. That was the 41st pick because you got to spend your first round pick on a tackle. Man,
Yeah.
take advantage of that, dude. Fill in the rest of that offense. You've got an offensive minded head coach. Make this a good offense. Make this a top 14, 13, 12, 10 offense next season. And then you can come back to the defense after those old guys are like officially gone. You can really throw your resources at that. So I'm with you on the Saints. Go offense. Yes, a splash for another edge rusher. If you can look at yourself and be like, Chase Young's kind of turned into a nice number two. If yeah, an Arvell Reese or Ruben Bain are there and can be a number one, cool. But like, I would rather try somebody, day two, and then maybe really swing big on an edge next year, if I can focus on the offense instead. Bengals. I wrote LOL defense. Do you want to add to that, or
No, I 100% agree, and I don't know that anything else needs to be said.
you know who you are, Cincinnati Bengals? And just draft wish list. I guess just like a footnote is like whatever also will keep Joe Burrow happy. Like, does he need to like does NFL Network like does he want a spot on NFL Network to like kind of try being, whether he's doing like a fashion show or like what's something that'll get his creative juices flowing so he can have a positive flow state going on over the off season. Whatever little fun things will also keep him happy while the draft is happening, along with adding players. Do that for Joe Burrow. Dude, I kind of
Yeah.
like the fashion show idea. I'm so bad with the fashion stuff, man, but I've never hated on an outfit. That's not my thing. But obviously, like the dude was like in France on a runway like over the off season. Like I'd be into that for him. That would be cool. That would be a good time. All right, that's our analysis on the Bengals. Another team to make fun of, the Atlanta Falcons,
Mm,
who we debated not talking about because they don't have a first round pick. But then we
yeah.
were like, we could make fun of them for not having a first round pick because things are
Yeah.
totally working out. Um, I'm not sure where the Falcons go from here. I'm going to talk about them first because I like making fun of them. The defense had success early on in the year because they blitzed at an unbelievable rate. But it turns out that you can't do that for a full season if your defense doesn't have enough talent. What you currently need right now is a wide receiver two, a cornerback two. Your offensive line is starting to age out as well. You don't know if you have a quarterback. You don't have any run stoppers on the defensive line. You could probably use one of those. And maybe your best defensive front seven player from this year, Caden Ellis, is a free agent, and you don't have any money. Um, but yeah, it's a good thing they drafted two edge rushers in the first round this year. How many sacks do those guys have, by the way? Four of the sacks that they have this year, maybe something like
That's a
that.
good, I don't remember. Yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah.
Anyways, what do you think about the Falcons, Ben? What's on their wish list for the draft? They're having a first round pick pack, maybe something like
Oh,
that.
what? That's all? You don't have anything else to make fun of them for?
Well, let's see. They have 200 million and the eighth overall pick invested at quarterback, and both guys have bad legs. Four bad legs between them. But Kirk Cousins, great press conference this week. Did you see him talking about like progression reads and half field reads and that sort of that was a great clip.
No, I actually missed that,
I'll
unfortunately.
send it to you.
Yeah.
It was
So,
a great time.
okay.
It was a,
All right.
it was a good
Well,
one.
thank you. So what I will say, because I put linebacker as the third need spot, but I was with you right there on the first two, wide receiver and cornerback, I think you said.
Hmm.
You can get those in the second round this year. The
Sure
wide
can.
receiver group is very deep, so they could upgrade their receiver room in the second round. I'm assuming they have their third round pick. I don't have it pulled up. And then there's some solid cornerbacks available too. They're not earth shattering, but there's solid guys available in the second and early third round this year. So I feel like they could probably, and that would be my wish list. I feel like they could probably realistically help both of those rooms this year, even without that first round pick. So that would be my wish list, wide receiver and CB with this year's draft in mind.
But don't worry, Ben. They have five whole picks. They're slated for five picks in this year's draft, so it'll all work out. Um, what's their cap space while we're here? Let's look at this. What are they looking at? The Falcons are currently projected by Over the Cap to have an effective cap space of, drumroll please, 2 million bucks.
Two.
Two. Um,
Hmm.
so you can cut Kirk Cousins, get about 20 back, and then see what happens with Michael Penix's knee, or you can another draft a quarterback on day two, see what happens. But um, tough stuff for
Yeah.
Atlanta. Tough stuff for Atlanta.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Man, that
So
the offensive line is starting to make me nervous, man. Another team that like 3, 4, 5 years ago was like top five offensive line. I still even think now they're probably considered that, but Jake Matthews getting older. They're on their like third center of the last 4 seasons. McGarry hurt. You getting nervous. It's getting a little long in the tooth there.
See, and that's what, when you start seeing the injuries on the offensive line, that's a great indicator that the age is starting to kick in, even more than a step lost, right? Because tight ends, wide receivers, CBs, you see a step lost. With offensive linemen, it's going to be injuries. And once you start seeing those injuries at those ages, you know the clock is ticking pretty quickly.
And we just talked about them, kind of like what happened to the Saints, right? I mean, at one day you look and you're watching Teron Armstead, Ryan Ramczyk, Andrus Peat, all be in the primes of their careers. Eric McCoy's coming up. Cesar Ruiz is a young early draft pick thrown in there. And then you look back over and Ramczyk and Armstead are just hurt all the time, and Pete's not on the field anymore. And like
Yeah,
out of nowhere, it goes quick when it goes,
yeah,
especially when you build those lines all together and all those guys are about the same age, and they're like, wow, they've played together for 4 years in a row. That's usually when things start to take a tumble.
yeah.
Um, are the Vikings? What do you got for the Vikings on their wish list?
I'm going to leave McCarthy alone for next
Yep.
year. Let's roll in there, see what he can do. He's got the weapons, he's got the OC. We got to find out if this guy can do it. So let's leave the offense alone. I'll leave McCarthy alone. Uh, the defense, uh, they could use help at every level. So I don't care where they do it. They got plenty of talent on defense, but they can still use help at every level. So if they want a cover guy at corner, that would be awesome. If they want to pull in a really good defensive tackle, not the free agent path they went, but a really good defensive tackle with some youth, that would be good. If they want to try to pull in a safety, that would be good. Another safety to sit alongside Metellus, so more of like the free safety, the deep safety stuff. And then if they want to pull in a talented linebacker, of which there are several. Listen, Blake Cashman's a heck of a linebacker, but he's not athletically on the higher end of the spectrum. He's just tough and smart and all that good stuff. So this draft sets up for the Vikings to add on some talented defensive help there, and uh, and let's roll with McCarthy next year. Even if McCarthy doesn't work out next year, the rest of the roster would be in pretty good shape for you to then draft a quarterback the following year and you know keep moving. So
I texted one of our resident Viking fan experts, Josh Sand, who obviously very good friend of the podcast, is on every month for Power Rankings, been on for a long time. Um, as you all know, the eternal optimist of the Minnesota Vikings, Skull to the Bowl and whatnot. Here's what Josh had to say. I'd like our first round pick to be an offensive lineman or a cornerback if there's an elite guy available. We need a strong safety at some point as well to replace Harrison Smith. Um, and then I think we also need a big, tall X wide receiver, a 50-50 ball winner that commands some coverage so we can line up Jefferson in a million different places. Addison is solid, but I don't think elite. And honestly, a dynamic running back in the third to fifth round would also be great. Followed up, followed that up with, I guess, everything. Um, the Vikings just schematically do things so well that it just you don't always see the names and the faces of the players doing it. Um, Cornerback always gets overlooked for them, and I always just wonder like, is that just one of those things that they don't? That's not a position they invest in. We've talked about teams like that, so you could sit there and say that, and especially here at 11, like that seems like that might be a time we could start seeing some corners go. Or listen, if Downs falls because of positional value, I mean, he would be incredible for this kind of defense. So I think that's the home run pick. Um, but I think this was the team more than any that I wrote down my notes based on the draft as a whole, more than just the first round pick or a specific round selection. And I'm not sure what's happening with Ryan Kelly after this season, after yet another concussion. He's playing right now, but it does not seem like he's going to be long for the Vikings. Um, and Christian Darrisaw is just always hurt. And you look on the other side and you're like, Brian O'Neill's just getting older, man. Like, how long can we just make him a set it and forget it type of guy? To what we were just talking about the offensive line, like when it goes quick. And I know Fry's being a second contract guy that just started, like should be okay. And Donovan Jackson is young, so like that should be, but both those guys got banged up this year too. So you're looking and you're like, I can't be in a place where all of a sudden this offensive line isn't good if I'm trying to figure out what JJ McCarthy is. So I don't know if it's first round. Probably isn't when you look at the roster and you think you have all the starters and there's not a center that you would necessarily take out 11. But you have to come out of this draft with 1 to 2 viable offensive linemen, wherever that comes from. Um, and then I did say, like, defensively they might need to go back and try for a corner and just go get like a real dude out there. But you just have to make sure JJ is set up for success one way or another. So I think a draft wish list, if you're in the building or a fan of the Vikings, is come out with good offensive linemen. Doesn't matter where in the draft they come from. And then yeah, if you get a corner that you can get excited about, that's good too.
Yeah, listen, the offensive line thing, a lot of folks liked what they did to the offensive line last year, and I was on the trail end of that. I was like, well, we'll see. It didn't totally cash in the way they want, and then yes, on top of that, a little bit of age and injuries kicking in too. So I would be happy with that. You know me, I'm mentioning the offensive line all the time. I'm fixing to do it with these next two teams. So
Yeah, the Miami Dolphins are up and they need to reinvest in the offense in a big way wherever McDaniel sees fit, I think. So obviously that could be the quarterback, that could be offensive line, but how are you feeling about Miami?
let me make my joke first, okay? Can we just
Great.
get Brian Flores back as head coach of this team and just kick tail all over this franchise? Because good gosh, do they need it? We got rid of, his arch nemesis Chris Greer. So can we just get undo the mistake we made by letting Flores go in the first place? You know, can that be my wish list thing?
Yeah. Yeah, you can put it on you can put it on the list. I've been telling my daughter for 2 months, put it on. Yeah, put it on your list. You like that house over there? Put it on your list. Go for it. I had to tell her one day, the bigger your list gets, the less things on your list you're gonna come up with, right?
Right, right.
She's 3. She's like, "What do you mean? It's on my list. Get it. Do the thing.
It's on my list.
Take that little thing out of your pocket, the little card, whatever that you tap tap, and you make the thing do what you're
Yeah,
supposed to do, man. What are you doing around here? Um. So yeah, put it on your list, Ben. Go for it.
thank you. Uh, there's a lot of things I'm not happy with about Miami. If I were GM in this thing, y'all feel free to call me. Uh, I would be looking for guys on the offensive line, guys in the defensive front seven. I'm looking for some rock solid, no nonsense, you know, fighting kind of guys. They don't have to be, if they are high ceilings like an Arvell Reese, that's fine, but they don't have to be. I got no problem bringing in a Connor Lew from Auburn to come in and kick some tail at center.
Hmm.
It's that mindset. We have some guys we like on defensive line, with Seiler and Kenneth Grant and even Chop Robinson to a degree has shown a little bit at times. So we're not bereft of investments and talent there, but I just want to keep adding to it. I'm not happy with the secondary, but the secondary is just going to have to wait. I really need for us to get stronger, meaner, more physical. on these front lines and for us to start to work on that, you know. But the Dolphins are a mess right now too. So where do you start?
Yeah, I don't know. And that's where if McDaniel sticks around, you just look at him, whoever comes in to be GM, ownership just looks at him and say, what do you need for this offense to work? Um, and if he just says, I need more speed, and unless he says that, you just take it. Because listen, Tyreek Hill posted that gif of the disappearing peace sign gif. Like, is that to Tua? Is that to himself? Is that to Miami in general? We don't know. Can't imagine Tyreek Hill is back. So you've got Waddle, you've got Achan, you've got Aaron Brewer at center, you've got my guy Jonas Afanea at guard. Like Patrick Paul seems like he might be able to get another year at that, but like, what do you have, man? What do you have? And you don't have a quarterback either. So like, do you just take bite the bullet and take Ty Simpson in the first round? I know you wouldn't. Um, well, actually, would you? I shouldn't speak for you. Would you, for Miami's case specifically? Let's say Maui Goa, Fano. Let's say all the top premier defensive linemen. So no Peter Woods, no Reese, no Bain, no Falk even.
Okay,
Um,
taking away
let's
all
say
my
no
big guys.
Tyson, no Carnell
Okay.
Tate. Yeah. W- At
If I
what
don't have
point would
any
you?
other choice here,
Right. Dante Moore is gone. If all the players have been drafted in the first 11 picks, Miami traded back to 256. Would you take Ty Simpson?
no. All right, yes, I would. Okay, so that actually is one of the few places I would really be very interested, working with McDaniel, assuming we're keeping him.
Hmm.
Obviously the 49ers aren't in the quarterback market, but again, Shanahan would be another great fit for a guy like a Simpson. So yeah, Simpson fitting there with Miami, I think that could work right there. Conceivably, yes. I still wouldn't do it, but if we're keeping McDaniel and we're asking, hey, what do you need? And he's like, get me that Alabama quarterback, then yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Let's just try to support our guy here.
Should the draft wish list, because you're mentioning San Francisco, should it be you trade the 45th pick to San Francisco for Mac Jones?
I mean, I wouldn't, but I'd rather just grab one of them other quarterbacks in the draft in the second at pick 45 and,
Yeah, that's true.
get my mean guy with the first round pick.
No, I took all the mean guys away. No more mean. No more mean guys for you. Yeah, it's getting wild here. Okay, so Dolphins, but it's off, so defensive line for you is on the wish list, but I think
Hmm.
figuring out that offense is a big one on the wish list. And I guess if you had to boil this down to like one wish, it's just like what are the Dolphins going to be on offense in 2026? I have no
Yeah,
idea right now. Without
right.
Tua, without Tyreek, um, that I tweeted this out. I said this offline with Peyton, but that run game got exposed against the Steelers, and I'm not even
Hmm.
talking like schematics, but I think when everyone was saying, "Ooh, the run game is starting to come together," right? They were fourth in rush offense DVOA. They were just really good at getting explosives on like second and medium. So
Yes.
the really gray area down of is this going to be a pass or a run? You've got Achan, and even in those numbers, like I dug into it, it wasn't even like yards before contact was really high. It was just like Achan's just breaking tackles on a second and five and getting an explosive, and that helps your advanced numbers. But first down, they're bad.
Hmm.
Third down, they're bad. Short yardage, they're bad. Goal line, they're bad. So all the things that have been bad about their run game for the last 5 years are still bad.
And I don't
Um,
think McDaniel cares. I don't think he's looking to change that either, you
yeah,
know?
maybe, yeah. So if you're just figuring out my wish list is who is this team going to be on offense? Okay, Ty Simpson. Okay, it's going to be a little similar to the Tua stuff. That's what they're going to try to do.
Yeah.
Um, oh, they went and got they get Maui go. Okay, ooh, we're changing things up now. They go get let's say one of those receivers fall, and you trade for Mac Jones. You're like, okay, well here this is what we're gonna. You want to know the identity of your offense after the. You don't want to sit at the end of the draft and be like, we took a tight end, we took another running back, we took a quarterback in the fourth round, we took two corners. Because to your point, yeah, the defensive back room is decimated.
Yeah.
But you don't want to come out of the draft being like, well, our cornerback room looks better, but our quarterback room is Tua, Quinn Ewers, Zach Wilson, and we didn't improve the offensive line. What are we doing here? That's not on your wish list.
No, it's not. And that's where I'm going to go back to my original wish, which is at the top of my list. Let's bring Brian Flores back and let's draft some of the biggest, baddest, meanest dudes on both sides of the football and let's start shoving people around, you know? So,
Big Jonah from Arizona. All right, Kansas City Chiefs, one of your other pet teams, Ben. What are the Chiefs looking to do in the draft?
so I'm gonna steal your thunder a little bit, but give you a shout out at the same time. I was listening to you and Peyton on the Simon and Friends podcast from earlier in the week.
Almost 2
Uh,
a.m., everybody.
Yeah, and you guys didn't get there by the same route I got there, but ultimately y'all talked about wanting to get the offense back on track, which I agree with. Now I ended up on an offensive line
Hmm.
deal as opposed to the wide receiver, but again, if Cincinnati and Joe Burrow can do the wide receiver thing and do it without the offensive line, there's no reason Kansas City can't. Um, Myself, I would rather get the other offensive tackle. I would rather do that. And specifically, I think I'd love to pull in Spencer Fano, is what I'd love to do here. All right.
Oh
So
yeah. Mm,
Spencer Fano for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that really, it's not a perfect fit, but I do think there's so many good contact points there that it would really start to round things off. And then I would go back in later in the draft and grab one of those. Again, I'm getting wide receiver 6 or 7, so it's not going to be
mm,
anywhere near as explosive as the Carnell Tate or the Jordan Tyson, right? It's
mm.
just not. But still, I hope to get somebody that should upgrade that room. And then let's start to get closer back on track with this offense. I'd rather have the Andy Reid high flying, high volume offense like we had 4 years ago and an average defense led by Spagnuolo than I would to have the Rock'em Sock'em defense with the offense that's kind of limited, choked down, finessed, being has a governor on it like a car engine. I
Mm.
really would like to get away from that. So even though I picked a different position group than you guys did, I'm all on board with, hey, let's get this offense back up again, is where I want to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing to add there. At this time I would do receiver over offensive line to do that, but you got to invest in both those positions.
Yeah.
You gotta get this offense back on track. If you can get, obviously on the wish list would also be, in addition to that, can you get a surprise edge rusher? Because they're also missing the juice there. But if you
Yeah.
had to pick one,
Right.
if I'm telling my daughter you got to whittle your list down if you really want to hit high numbers here,
Hmm.
you got to do it on the offense side of the ball. You can't have Mahomes running as much as he was this year.
No.
All right, so those are the 13 teams officially eliminated from the playoffs, right? We have two teams that we're going to talk about here where if we're recording this on a Friday, they're going to play Sunday. If they lose that Sunday, which you will already know if they have or have not by the time you listen to this, they're also out. So we're just going to hit them now. The Carolina Panthers, man, right there in your neck of the woods. What should be on the Panthers wish list for the draft?
For me, it's similar to what the Bengals would have and to what the 49ers would have, and that's just defense. They kind of need it at all levels. There's even another team I mentioned already. Um, I don't even care which one. Let's just, when it comes our turn to pick, I don't really see a need to trade up here. If I'm Carolina, we've got too many holes on defense. We've done a good job working with everybody this year. We really have. But again, we're not in that strong of a division either. Did we lose twice to the Saints, I think, right? So,
I think
you
so.
know, indicators that maybe we're not quite as good as our record would suggest we are, although we are a good team. So props to the coaching staff, but you're going to have to bring in some more defensive help here. So I don't even care where, edge, linebacker, corner, safety, you name it. Whoever's sitting there, somebody will slip to that spot right there. Somebody will slip. You snatch them right up. That's it for me.
Yeah, I wrote defense as well. I think specifically, I would love to get a real number one pass rusher. Um,
Hmm.
which is it's always hard to do, and they're likely not drafting in the top 10 here this season, but it's a deep defensive line class. And, we can find guys late in the first round that can be that guy for you. It doesn't mean he has to be an all around Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Miles Garrett type of edge rusher. But I need a guy that's going to get me double digit sacks, right? I like at this point, I need that. They made a small leap from being historically bad defense to just like regular bad defense this year, just by adding a couple like run plugging defensive tackles and then Scorton and Uman Milan on the defensive line. And that was really it in terms of their defensive roster moves. If they can get a guy with some real splash, real juice to rush off the edge, that could really help this defense, I think, in a big way. So I think you want to come out of this draft, if you're the Panthers, if you're their fans, with an exciting edge rusher that you actually want to see get after the quarterback. That's my number one thing. I'm not worried about quarterback yet. I'm not touching that offense right now for the most part, other than depth on the line and whatnot. But there's enough going on offense that I like. I I need an edge rusher. It's time to make that happen. All right, our last team of the night, the Dallas Cowboys. Ben, what are you wishing for Dallas come this draft season?
It's defense, and I'll get into specific positions in just a second. There's a part of me that would love to just continue building this offensive line, right? Because they've done an excellent job starting to recreate. They don't have what
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
had years ago. Still, I would love to upgrade it, and I think the guys are here in this draft to do it. And I think at least one of those guys will be there where the Cowboys will be drafting. So I got no problem if they go down that road, but ultimately I would love to get the support side of the defense going here. So we've got the
Yeah.
defensive tackles in place. We've got corners in place. I didn't check to see if they got to pay them or not, so I didn't even check
Mm.
on that. Safety, linebacker, edge, and really big edge is what I would be looking for. Those guys are in this draft. So that's anybody from a Reuben Bain to a Caleb Downs. You'd have to trade up for those kind of guys. Keldrick Falk, I wouldn't hesitate to add him to this defense.
Hmm.
They can afford the risk. Those are the kinds of guys that a Sonny Styles would be beautiful back there.
Hmm.
That would be so beautiful for this defense if he were sitting there. So, again, it's the idea of, hey, the defensive tackles are in place now. We've got corners sitting there, and we've got Ezraku, who we think, not going to be Micah Parsons, but he can get pressure on the quarterback. So now we just need to continue to support that, right? So that big edge, linebacker, and safety roles. That's really where I would be looking to add here in all the rounds of the draft, really.
Yeah, it's defense for them. They're 30th in DVOA, 30th against pass, 29 against the run. Same as Washington, same as, we were just talking about with the Panthers. You invest in that offense, right? Plenty. You got Dak. You've got the majority, if not all of an offensive line that can be good for at least a few years there. You made some cheap running backs work. Keep that up. Do that again. You've got your tight end. You've got, you traded for Pickens. You got to bring him back. Um, it's time to give the defense the love that it needs. So, I hear a pass rusher is good. I don't know how Dallas feels about that. Edge rushers, no, number one guys, maybe that gets you 14, 15 sacks and defend the run. I don't know. I don't know if they like that there or not, but that's maybe what I would be looking to do. So, I'm with you on all the names you mentioned. I mean, Downs would be fun. They could certainly use that. Um, they have corners, they have them, and they've paid them, but those guys are hurt all the time. So like you could do
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but I think a pass rusher being up there at 14, I think is the right move. All right, Ben, that's our wish list. Anything else overarching big picture thoughts at this point in draft season for us?
To me, this draft is a little bit unusual, and I do like it, but it's a little bit unusual. To me, there's no clear number one outside of Mendoza. Mendoza will be that, I think. And after that, if it's not the Oregon quarterback Dante Moore, you could see any number of guys going number two. I mean, there's a lot. What I found consistently as I graded through this draft, guys that I put a early second round grade on, I'm drafting at number 20. And
Hmm.
that's just
Oh
because
yeah.
it seems to run out. And some guys that I had a first round grade on, I'm drafting at 12 and 14. So it doesn't feel like this draft is quite as powerful at the top, but boy, some of these positions have plenty of depth in them. and you can really draw on that if you want to. And I really do like these guys, even though maybe they're not quite the power pops at the top that we might see next year or, 2 or 3 years ago in some of these drafts.
Luckily, there's some names for offensive line. It's not killer, but you can get a guy or two if you need in the first round.
Yeah.
Very good on the defensive line, very good depth there. There's certainly guys that could be wide receivers twos and threes. This is a good
Hmm.
like just insulate your team kind of draft, I think. There's
Yeah.
useful players in here, and it feels like we say stuff like this every year, but like if you need to be ready to overturn offense with some developmental linemen, if you need to get a couple extra edge rushers, if you need to in from rounds 1 through 3 fill out a defensive back room, you can do that. There's going to be a play at a quarterback at some point. You can go up and get one. There are teams that need it. There are teams that have the draft capital to do it. So teams are going to help themselves in this draft. But yeah, so far, and if you're making a wish list, you can get most of the things on your list right now. Maybe not
Hmm.
to the degree that you want. Maybe it's not the name brand version of the thing you want, but maybe it's the store brand version of it. Can just get you what you need. Um, but we'll see, man. We'll see. It's certainly plenty of time for us to continue to ruminate and think about this and build these out. We'll do our War Room series eventually. We'll continue player profiles. We'll continue mock drafts. Box Score Network, quick plug, YouTube channel over on Box Score Network. Those are all of our pods. You guys know them by now. But head over to the YouTube channel for Box Score Network. Ben and I did a mock. We did Ben's big board. I'll have a big board. Peyton should have a big board as well at some point. So plenty of draft coverage for you over there. And you'll have it on this podcast with Ben as well. Ben, you were on twice this month. I think back to just once next month, and then February through April, maybe February through May, back to twice a month as we really get into draft content. So, thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody for listening. Hope everybody's having an excellent holiday week and holiday season. Um, Watch a few Hallmark movies while you're at it. If you got some free time, I'm gonna hopefully get to 11 or 12 here over the course of the weekend. So yeah, everybody enjoy that. Enjoy the time with the family, and most importantly, everyone have fun and be safe out there.